Today on Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, we have not one but three guests from the nonprofit Friends of Dreamland Ballroom. Director Matthew McCoy and board member Ryk St Vincent and Jeff Roper. If you haven't heard or are wondering what the Friends of Dreamland nonprofit is, it's a group of everyday people who in 2009 united in the mission, or maybe I should say vision, of saving the Dreamland Ballroom. And now you're thinking, what's the Dreamland Ballroom? It's the third floor of the Taborian Hall in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas, that was built in 1917 by the International Order of 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor. Again, you're asking, who are the Knights and Daughters of Tabor? They are an African-American fraternal organization founded in 1846, an anti-slavery society. Though credited for many good works, they may be best known as the sponsors of the Taborian Hospital, a black person's hospital. I think of the services provided by the Knights and Daughters of Tabor as a kind of government within a government. Our country's first welfare system. Negro Americans taking care of the sick, widowed, and orphaned within their own community. It wasn't until 1935, 90 years later, that FDR established our current welfare system for all Americans, probably modeling it somewhat after what the Knights and Daughters had done. In addition to the Knights and Daughters' interesting and important history, there is the music legacy. It is believed that Dreamland was the smallest theater on the famous Chitlin circuit, having hosted such greats as Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, Earl Hines, Etta James, Ella Fitzgerald, Red Fox, and Nat King Cole, just to name a few. 1990, the Taborian Hall was saved from the wrecking ball by me, Kerry McCoy, and currently on the first and second floors is the home of flagandbanner.com. Today, we're going to have a brave conversation to talk about everything and open the hotline for phone calls. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the table fellow visionaries, lovers of old buildings, music enthusiasts, and endearing friends, Jeff Roper and Ryk St Vincent, and my son, Matthew McCoy. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
You're going to have to behave. Hey, Mom, I love that. Y'all are going to have to behave. These are my cronies. We were just laughing before the show about behaving. All right, let's start at the beginning. Jeff,
Or not behaving.
Jeff, you're in the hot seat first. You were one of my first recruits, a founding board member of the Friends of Dreamland Ballroom. Tell everyone what your current career is and about our first meeting.
Well, currently I'm the Family Services Director for Habitat for Humanity, which is a fantastic organization. I'm very happy to have, in the pandemic, gained a new job. You may remember I was working for you at the time at Flag and Banner, so it did cost you an employee.
I know, but it was worth it. Everybody give an applaud for Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
When he came in and said, Kerry, I got some good news and bad news. I'm quitting, but I'm going to work for the Habitat for Humanity. I said, oh, my God, Jeff, that's so good. All right.
So you and I met. The Root Cafe was having a pre-1-year anniversary fundraiser at Doc's, and I got invited to go. And I was there, and aside from meeting you, the thing I remember most is there was a dude there that had his hair in dreads, and he had a jacket on, and something looked a little off, and he had a rat on his shoulder that would walk back and forth across the top of his back.
What?
And, awesome. And yeah, it wasn't very long at all to where you saw everybody going like that, and like the whole room was just pointing to, look at that dude, he's got a rat on his back. But you and I met and had a great time together.
Finish that story. Yeah, why was that rat on there?
Come on, man.
What, am I going to go ask him, why do you have a rat?
No, we're asking you.
You
no,
didn't
I don't
do
know.
that? It's like, that would be the first thing that I did. I'd be like, what's its name? How'd you get it?
Oh, no.
Why is it on your back?
Yeah.
No. He didn't look like anybody I really wanted to have a conversation with.
The guy or the rat?
Neither one of them. Because if the rat started talking,
Yeah, well, I would.
That would be some good LSD if it did.
It sounds cute. It's like Ratatouille.
It's his mushroom story, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I told y'all it was going to get out of
Evolved
control.
really quickly.
And then you knew that I worked at the Rep, and genius on your part, you reached out to somebody in the arts community, and I said, well, man, I'd like to help you, Kerry, but I work at a nonprofit. I don't have any money to offer. And you said, oh, that's okay. I just like your vibe. Come join us.
And all of that is true.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
None of us have any money that work for the Friends of Dreamland Ballroom, where it's all about the endearing passion that we feel for it.
Yes.
You know, it really is. We're just average people. I said it in our opening. We're just average people that share a vision, you know. Rick, you're next. You come on the board the second year. You're not a founding, but you're the second. This is also your second time to be on this show. When I started it in 2016, you were one of my first people to come on because you are an entertainer.
Well, I was also a radio person.
Yeah, listen to that voice, yeah.
So,
So how did we tell us about your multi-talents, which you're about to, and then tell us tell the story of how we reconnected after years.
Okay. My multi-talents. I don't get
easy.
Just hold the reins tight, man, so that you can see blood coming from my lips.
Well, there's Otis. What about your multi-personalities? There's Otis.
Well, those are all of that stemmed from radio. I used to get radio jobs all across the United States. I was at 17 or more radio stations in 8 different states, 6 different cities. And I did radio, and people hired me because I could come on and give them 4 or 5 different characters. So Old Man Otis was one. Mm-hmm. Then there was Country Bumpkin. Hey, I was down here last night. I didn't even say you were over there. That's him, you know. I did a lot of commercials with the Gold Pirate, who I used to use him when I was in Jackson, Mississippi, WJMI in Jackson, Mississippi. And we did, maybe 3 to 5 commercials for Chocolate Soldier. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Chocolate Soldier. It was a little drink that you would get at the convenience stores, and you could buy Chocolate Soldier. And I was the go-to guy for the company of Chocolate Soldier, who would come to Jackson, Mississippi, and have me to write and produce these commercials. So if you go back to, say, 83, you may have heard this guy go, "All right, listen up. You, Private, what's the first thing you like about being a chocolate soldier?" "Well, sir, the first thing I like, sir, is it's just rich and creamy." You're gonna grow up to be a real good private one day, soldier." "Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much." You know, so I would do those kinds of things. I can't go back now because that's been a while, but I did a lot of production in radio for a long time,
and it's obvious. And then, but really, your talent is what you just did, but it's also your woodworking.
Well, that's
how I first met you.
That's how I got into the woodworking. It was because I was in radio and I was here, and some guys were crapping on me. Not quite like the rat going across the grass, but the same feeling.
Okay.
You got something unwanting on your shoulders, and I said, "Look, forget it." Got out of that and got into woodworking. So I've been making wood product for
Beautiful.
40 years.
Beautiful
I'm actually
stuff.
Forced into retirement right now.
By
So,
COVID.
Somewhat by COVID, but somewhat by COVID for sure. Things got rough.
Yeah, they do.
They sold the building that I was in because of COVID. The guy had apartments and houses, and he had one commercial building. The apartments and houses weren't paying, so he sold the building to get money, and I was part of that collateral damage.
And then how did we reconnect after all these years?
We reconnected because I used to go by your shop with my dog, India. I had a Brindle boxer, pretty dog, for 11 years. And I would take this dog past your place, Flag and Banner, and say hello to you and others. Kathleen, and I can't remember who, but it used to be about 3 or 4 women standing outside smoking cigarettes, and I would pass
It was
them.
not me. I was not doing that. I wanted to be, but...
Yeah. And I'd pass them and go walk my dog and come back. So that's how I knew my shop was down the street, and I had 2 shops right next to yours.
And then you disappeared.
And I disappeared, yeah.
I guess I didn't see you for a decade. We were like, where's that good-looking dog and his good-looking boxer? And then all of a sudden, you call me up out of the blue. What? That's right.
She didn't even. That wasn't even a joke. I don't think she did that on purpose.
What's wrong with that?
Well, the thing is that we did reconnect, and I joined the Friends of Dreamland. And I'm the guy at the Friends of Dreamland. I'm the guy that's sort of the guardrails. And I would always say, look, there's a bunch of people here in this city that have different points of view about you having this building. And I would go out and fight for that and say, look.
Just go ahead and say it. I said it's going to be a brave conversation.
Yeah.
I'm white. I own a black person's building.
Right. But the thing is that the community had let the building decay over, 20 years or more? Because it's been a long time.
It was months from the wreck and ball.
It was one of the last buildings on 9th Street other than Mosaic Templars, which burned. And then they reconstructed it pretty much the same way as it was. But I'm thinking this woman came in and spent her money, her time, and her energy and put this thing back on the map. Why are you upset? If I see you fall out of a plane and I'm Superman and I catch you, why are you mad because I wrinkled your pants on the way down?
Whoa! Now that is an abstract thought. All right, on that note, I'm moving to you. I love it, though. On that thought, I'm moving to you, Matthew, son Matthew, as you often say in your tours of Dreamland, which are often, this is your destiny. Tell us why.
So you actually bought Taborian Hall the year I was born, in 1990. So I've kind of literally grown up in the building, and but it wasn't until I think I moved back. I mean, really in my mid-20s, and I moved back to Little Rock, and I started really getting familiar with the history of the building that I realized how actually awesome it is, and how awesome the history it is. It was beautiful. It's great. I love it. I grew up in there, and I have this deep connection with it because of that. But then I got to really know the history, and I was kind of honestly flabbergasted with myself because it was shocking to me that I didn't know that history already. Just even the fact that I grew up in the building, the fact that I lived in Little Rock my whole life. I mean, why didn't I know that history already? And so that kind of led me into a deeper dive of this whole conversation. What happened to 9th Street? What happened to all this stuff? And what, Rick?
I want to ask you a question on that point. You didn't know the history, and you lived in Little Rock. So that tells me that somebody in Little Rock or some entity of Little Rock determined that this is not something they're going to teach.
Yeah, somebody sometime said this isn't important. And I said, that's ridiculous. It's not only important, it's cool. It's like a very awesome building with an amazing legacy. Like that musical legacy is insane.
That's heartbreaking.
And I kind of got this energy for it and was like, and I feel like, I felt like my deal with this space is to share this history now. Like accessibility to this history is what I can do now,
Speak to the feeling you get upon ascending the stairs to Dreamland.
It's very well, I've been up there so many times. It's almost hard to remember that first time, or that first time, especially when I came back and looked at it, and it was so much. The floors were so nice, and because I remember growing up and walking up there, and it was you had all the scrap flags as the floor, and there was this color-coded path that you walked, to not fall through the floor. But walking through and walking in there, and it just has this gravity about it. It's kind of the sadness of COVID that's really been the thing. I haven't been able to do my tours, and getting people in that space, you immediately see them become passionate about it. Mm-hmm. They can see 1,000 pictures of it and be like, what a cool, beautiful place and read that legacy and go, wow, these people performed here, in our town. Like, that's crazy. But then when you're in there, you feel that. You feel that legacy. You feel that gravity of that legacy, and it's something else.
This is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the Friends of Dreamland's Executive Director, Matthew McCoy, and board members, Ryk St Vincent and Jeff Roper. Still to come, who are the Knights and Daughters of Tabor? What you probably didn't know about Little Rock, Arkansas's prosperous people on 9th Street, Dreamland's connection to the legendary Chitlin Circuit, how to get invited, and when is the grand opening of Dreamland, and last, get connected, do good, and feel good about yourself by adding your name or someone you love to the sidewalk of this historic place. We'll be back after the break. You ready?
Yes.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Over 40 years ago, with only $400, Kerry founded Arkansas Flag and Banner. During the last 4 decades, the business has grown and changed, along with Kerry's experience and leadership knowledge. In 1995, she embraced the internet and rebranded her company as simply flagandbanner.com. In 2004, she became an early blogger. Since then, she has founded the nonprofit Friends of Dreamland Ballroom, began publishing her magazine, Brave, and in 2016 branched out into this very radio show, YouTube channel, and podcast. And today, in 2020, Kerry McCoy Enterprises acquired OurCornerMarket.com, an online company specializing in American-made plaques, signage, and memorials for over 20 years. If you'd like to sponsor this show or get involved with any of Kerry McCoy's enterprises, send an email to me, Gray, that's Gray, at flagandbanner.com. Telling American-made stories, selling American-made flags. TheFlagandBanner.com. Back to you, Kerry.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with Little Rock, Arkansas's Friends of Dreamland's Executive Director, Matthew McCoy, and board members Ryk St Vincent and Jeff Roper. Before the break, we talked about how I met these gentlemen, why they're passionate, what they do right now, and a little bit about Dreamland. But now we want to talk about the music legacy. Who wants to talk about the music legacy?
Kerry, I brought somebody with me.
Oh dear.
Okay.
He worked at Dreamland.
Okay.
And when I knew I was coming over here, I asked the gentleman would he come with me, and sort of, just a couple of stories about what he did. Is Mr. Otis. Mr. Otis. Yeah. Come here for a minute. Come here. You worked outside of Dreamland as a valet? Yeah. Who did you see as a valet? Who did you see that would perform there at Dreamland?
I remember Nat King Cole. He was there. I helped him get out the car one day, and Ella Fitzgerald. she's a nice. Hold on, my granddaughter asking me something.
But no, you can't.
He's gone.
Never mind.
Okay, look, y'all.
That old flake. Very good. Thanks, Otis.
He's a performer. You can't stop him. I love it. That's a great way to talk about the people that are there.
Well,
yes, Jeff.
Somebody who doesn't get mentioned very often that I think because of Dancing into Dreamland maybe should get a little more run. And Sammy Davis Jr. played there.
I don't think I remember that.
You really can't name any performer from the early 20th century,
like
black
dancing,
performer, and they probably
the Robinson brothers played there.
The Rosetta Tharpe.
Yeah, but she's not much of a hoofer.
Well, and she's from Arkansas, so it makes a little more sense. What
does that even mean?
A huffer. She
doesn't dance?
Yeah.
No.
You don't dance.
So
being a hoofer was being a dancer back in the 40s.
I don't think that I knew Sammy Davis Jr. played there. Is that right, son?
As far as I know, I mean, it really is. It really is. If you can think of, a famous performer from the years. God, I'm sorry, I'm coming to being yelled at for my violent hand gestures. If you really can think of a performer from the early 20th century, 1920 to 1950, 60, they probably performed there.
Elvis Presley. I cannot find where Elvis Presley.
No, there's no way he
done
performed
that.
there.
He would not have done that.
Black performer.
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
would have probably been at Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still would be surprised.
And there was a big overlap in ownership between Robinson and the Dreamland. And the guy who did a lot of the booking company that ran Dreamland also booked bands at Robinson. So their company could have booked Elvis Presley to play at the Robinson. They certainly would not have booked him to play at Dreamland.
Let me give you something that I would imagine that Bill Bojangles Robinson came to Dreamland. I haven't seen any photographs or anything like that. But when I did radio in St. Louis, I was talking about Bill Bojangles Robinson. I was up at KATZ, and I was doing overnights. A lady called up and said, "I knew your uncle." And I said, what are you saying, ma'am? She says, "I knew your uncle. I knew Bill. Bill Bojangles Robinson is an uncle of mine, married my great aunts, my grandmother's aunt. And her name is Flossie, and she actually lived or actually hung out at a little place called Leo's or something like that. It was down the street from my grandmother's house. And so when I got off work, I went over there and met her. And she used to travel on the train with Bill Bojangles Robinson and about 7 or 10 other
Who's
dancers.
Bill Bojangle Robinson, y'all?
He's the guy that taught
Bojangles.
Shirley Temple. Mr. Bojangles.
Oh.
That song is about my uncle.
Oh.
Yeah. Bill
So
Bojangles.
so tell our listeners why and how the how the Dreamland got so many great performers, because it was a small theater.
It was, well, he mentions it in his tours that it's part of that Chitlin Circuit of the South here.
But they came, Matthew, to play at Robinson for the white people, and so
Yeah,
that paid for them to get here.
No.
Well, not always.
Not
So
always.
the Chitlin Circuit, a lot of people are familiar with like the Green Book now. There's been a movie and a documentary, this kind of travel guide for Black Americans, in the early 20th century. So it's this, and so the Chitlin Circuit was something in that same kind of field of understanding.
The
a
Chitlin
chain
Circuit
of, yeah.
was where blacks could play without being harassed by folks here in the South. That's what the Chitlin Circuit was.
But we ended up getting a lot of great performers in Dreamland that might not would have come there because they were playing at Robinson.
No.
So
No.
Yes.
They were
Do you
playing,
work for
They were
Robinson?
playing. She's applying for a job
I mean,
tomorrow.
yes and no. So the beginning of the Chitlin Circuit existed the entire time that Dreamland was
The
popular.
Chitlin Circuit existed before Robinson Auditorium.
Well, I understand
Certainly,
that.
yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
So when you go back to vaudeville and you go back to those times, there was a Chitlin Circuit for black entertainers.
But Cab
where they could
Calloway
safely go.
But here's an example of what I believed happened. Cab Calloway came to play at Robinson, and afterwards he came and played at Dreamland because he was in town playing at Robinson.
Right.
So that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
a lot of performers do
true and not
stopovers.
true.
And that is true and not true. Tell me.
So there's actually a record of Cab Calloway playing at Dreamland when he was 17 years old, before he was ever even famous. And that is a part exclusively of his time on the Chitlin Circuit, because the Chitlin Circuit was more of something that was understood by performers than people than kind of laymen traveling. So because it was a place that you, a performer, a comedian, a musician, whatever, could travel from place to place and know where you could go
And make
to
a
do
living.
and make
make
your
a
living. Because the guys who lived in town already knew where they could go. And if you wanted to travel, you had the Green Book to tell you where to go. If you were just a tourist, in a sort of sense.
All right, let's move on to talk about the prosperous people of 9th Street. I did not know this until I bought that building, and I hired Berna Love for 5 years to do research, and she wrote the book that we sell at Arkansas Flag and Banner. Oh, she wrote 2 books. So Matthew, or whoever wants to take this, about the prosperous people of 9th Street. I don't think people realize that African Americans at the turn of the 20th century were so prosperous, and were actually called the prosperous people.
If you were an African American here, Oklahoma, parts of Florida, St. Louis, and other places, Mississippi and all, you were part of a community where people had businesses. They had funeral homes. They had hair salons. They had barbershops. They had car repairs. They had pool halls. They had restaurants. They had whatever you could find.
Motels, theaters.
All of that. Mm-hmm. Whatever you found in these major cities that belonged to the white community, blacks also had.
Yeah, a city within a city.
Right. And it's not that they wanted to have it, but they were excluded from mingling. I mean, it's not that far ago. It's not that far ago when people said you can't drink out of that fountain.
Yeah,
So
segregation.
if you can't drink out of that fountain, where do you go to drink? You build your own fountain someplace. Mm-hmm. So they did that in an effort to have what is afforded to everybody else, and then those communities became staples for that community. And next thing you know, you got 4, 5, 6 blocks or whatever of business, of commerce, of commerce.
So then this kind of plays well into what kind of I was talking about was my initial kind of inspiration for coming back into Dreamland is this, there's a term for this. It's the Harlem Renaissance is what they kind of call this. But it's like I didn't learn that term in school. I learned that term on my own research, right? So this kind of prosperous era of Black history, this is not really taught in schools. It's like when I think about African American history as a white kid, I think about slavery and I think about Reconstruction and I think about and then I think about the civil rights. That's like 80 years in between those two things I just said. There's this huge gap in what we're taught about, and all of Taborian Hall and Dreamland Ballroom's history is in that 80, 100 years right there, that between Reconstruction and the Civil Rights era. It's literally right in between.
So let's talk about who built the Taborian Hall. The International Order of 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor, as I said in the opening, is an African-American fraternal organization best known as sponsoring the Taborian Hospital. They were founded in 1846 as an anti-slavery society. Talk about how much they spent to build it here. Wasn't it the most expensive building built in Little Rock at the time?
That year, yeah, 1916 or 17, yeah.
It was the most expensive building built in downtown Little Rock in 1916.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was completely funded. So the Knights and Daughters are, a mutual aid organization who you paid dues into. So you got memberships and you paid dues into it and you got some kind of series of benefits. A lot of what we would consider or what would be comparable to modern day welfare or insurance. Or funeral arrangements. A stipend for a widow, a funeral plot, that kind of stuff. And there were a lot of different types. The Mosaic Templars, which now houses the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center, was another mutual aid organization. There was the Knights of Pythias that were also on 9th Street. I think at the turn of the century in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there were 4 or 5 in Little Rock. The Knights of Pythias, the Taborians, and the Mosaics being, I think, the largest. Mosaic was actually probably the largest in Little Rock at the time.
Who is our sister building on 9th Street, for everybody that doesn't know. We're going to talk about them in a minute. And a PBS documentary called Dreamland Little Rock West 9th Street kind of talks about the prosperous people, the Knights and Daughters of Tabor, the music that we just talked about.
Yeah, they do a good job of covering kind of the 4 big facets of the history of 9th Street really, really well.
Yeah, PBS.
Sorry, AETN did it.
AETN, I'm sorry, yeah.
Our local one.
And so I think that's available on YouTube. I definitely know we sell CDs or DVDs of it at Flag and Banner. And then in addition, this is something I never thought about, when soldiers or servicemen, because soldiers are just Army, but when servicemen would come to Little Rock.
To Arkansas.
Yeah. They would stay at Pike. They would be stationed at Pike, but yet they couldn't stay there because they were black. And so I know Rick's laughing. He's just like, you can't even imagine. But anyway, so the Taborian Hall became the U.S. Officers Club.
Yeah, so it was the basement was World War I was just the basement, but then in World War II they were training so many young black men over at Camp Robinson at that time. I think I don't remember if Camp Pike was around or Camp Robinson was around, or maybe had a different name for World War I. But in World War II, they were training 20 to 30,000 18-year-old black men to go to war at any given time. And so they bought all of that Taborian Hall building and turned it into the USO. So the ballroom dances on the top floor. They had offices for the officers on the second floor, and they had rest and relaxation rooms. They had the pharmacy that was in there for years. The bottom floor was locker rooms, and there was a pool hall in the back. And so it was a big R&R space for them, because by World War II, the big issue for these men was that if they wanted to leave, is that a lot of them weren't from the area, and if they wanted to leave the camp, which they wanted to do because they're about to go to war, they want to get their jollies and do their thing, do whatever. The only places they had to go were either Washington Avenue and North Little Rock, which was the black district over there, or 9th Street, which had much more of an entertainment district reputation. So they were coming over to 9th Street, which when you look at it, you're down there and you look between Mosaic and our building, which is the main stretch of 9th Street. It's only 3 or 4 blocks.
Yeah, but that was like a downtown.
But it's not a lot of people it's not a lot of room for 20,000 18-year-old dudes to come and party. When there's already a whole community living there. Yeah. So they were like, okay, the community was stressed. It was causing a big issue. And so they bought them this building, and they put all their R&R space there, and
the rest is history.
Yeah.
All right. It's a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the Friends of Dreamland's Executive Director, Matthew McCoy, and board members Ryk St Vincent and Jeff Roper. Still to come, what Dreamland's plans are for the future, how to get invited, and when is the grand opening of Dreamland. And last, get connected, do good, and feel good about yourself by adding your name or someone you love to the sidewalk of this historic place. Would make a great Christmas gift. We'll be back after the break.
Well, the holidays are going to be a little different this year. What can you do to still feel that special November and December vibe in Arkansas? Decorate and share the photos and videos. Holiday home decor you won't find anywhere else is in stock now at flagandbanner.com. You can come to the store on 9th Street in downtown Little Rock and see for yourself all the different things we've got. Decorative Christmas flags, wreaths, ornaments, garland, even service-themed Christmas decorations in case somebody in your family served or is serving. Imagine the joy your active military family member will get from a video featuring that kind of Christmas decorations at home. Advent calendars, stocking stuffer gift ideas, nutcrackers, and all the Razorback-themed Christmas ornaments and decorations you can imagine. This year, do your Christmas shopping for gifts, tree trimming ideas, and home and office decorations at flagandbanner.com. Online at flagandbanner.com or in person in the showroom at 800 West 9th Street in downtown Little Rock.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Kerry McCoy. We are visiting with Little Rock, Arkansas's Friends of Dreamland Ballroom Executive Director Matthew McCoy and board members Jeff Roper, Jeff Roper, and Ryk St Vincent. All right, before the break, we talked about the 12 Knights and Daughters of Tabor. We talked about the PBS documentary, Dreamland, Little Rock's West 9th Street, USO Club, the prosperous people of 9th Street, the music legacy. If you missed any of that, you should go back and listen to it. I'm pretty impressed with Matthew's knowledge. We were kind of all going, good job, young son. Now I want to talk about the grant. Friends of Dreamland has received, and what we're going to do next. So, Jeff, you're quiet down there, but I'm coming to you. Don't think you're not.
You're not getting away, sir.
No, I'm fine. Not talking about things I don't know about.
No.
Fair enough.
Friends of Dreamland has received a grant from the National Park Service to make the ballroom handicapped accessible. The National Park Service has a civil rights grant. They realize that all these buildings from the civil rights area in that 80-year era that Matthew was talking about are falling into disrepair. So let's talk about that grant. And the reason for the grant is because we need an elevator to get people up to the 3rd floor. The Dreamland Ballroom is on the 3rd floor. It is not handicap accessible. It does not have a handicap bathroom. We applied for this grant. We were luckily given it. We applied for it again to finish it up. Luckily, we were given it again, and you are
might be applying for it again next week.
And we might be applying for another one next week. So where are we on that grant?
So we were between phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 was the actual, turned out to be just the construction of the addition itself. So if you're driving down 630 going east, you can see, or west, I guess, whatever. East is easier though. But you can see that we've added a big brick portion onto the building, and that will house the structure for the elevator. And that was because the ballroom comprises the entire square footage of the building. So to put an elevator in the building, we would have had to have it come up into the ballroom floor, which is not ideal. No. So we really had to do this big exterior addition, and that ended up being almost the entirety, I think, of phase 1. So all the electrical and all that stuff.
It always costs more than you think.
Yeah. No.
Well, let me jump in here for a second, because my memory says that the first money we spent was to get tens of thousands of bats safely out of the ballroom.
That's very true. That's actually completely true. We spent like $20,000 on getting rid of bats and
oh yeah, I forgot
cleaning
about that.
up after them.
Yeah,
well, that was an ordeal. Yeah, but it was done very humanely.
Yeah, humanely.
No bats were harmed.
Humanely moving
Right.
the bats.
Yes.
All right. The relevancy of what we are doing. You two guys. Matthew's only been here a couple of years, but you two gentlemen have been with me for the last 10 years, and the relevancy of what we are doing seems more important today than in 2009 when we started Friends of Dreamland. It seems like this history and Black Lives Matters and all that's going on today seems like in 2009 was important, but today it seems like the conversation is even
coming to a head.
Is even needed more.
Well, what I would say is this, and I'm going to be philosophical for a second because I've been tweeting since I've been, free to be at home, and let me
wax poetic, Rick.
Yeah,
he's waxing poetic.
I got a response from a guy one day, and I tweeted him back, and I said this. I said, "Where else in the universe can we live as humans that we know of? We got powerful telescopes. We're going in outer space. You got SpaceX. You got all that. But there's only one place in the universe that we can live, and that is on this planet." And I went on to say, a moth in the woods cannot request that a butterfly leave the area. A minnow in a lake can't tell a larger fish or another fish to get out of the water. Okay? We all live here. Every animal lives here. We all live here, and it just blows my mind that we have communication and radio and TV, and we're always using it, or sometimes it feels like we mostly use it to distance ourselves, to make ourselves hate the other people. When you go to Dreamland Ballroom and you go there and you are there for a ball, which is typically in the first, second week of November for the last 11 years or so.
Dancing in the Dreamland, yes.
When you go to Dancing in the Dreamland, you have an opportunity to get all fussied up and put your shoes on and your nice outfits and grab somebody that hopefully you are in love with and you want to spend the evening with, and you go up there and you see people. You see people.
That was
you
really
hear
well
music.
said.
You hear, and it's like, okay, so in these four walls,
it's
people
a love
can get
fest.
along.
It's a love fest.
In these four walls, people are getting along. They're dancing with each other. They're having fun. They're making jokes. They're eating out of the same damn tray. They're
Not
sharing
anymore.
drinks. Well, not anymore. Okay,
Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, it's your turn.
But it's crazy to me. It's just
it is
it's a slingshot.
it is an absolute love
It's a
fest.
slingshot in your head.
It's way past time for people to just get along.
Oh yes, Jeff. I said we were going to talk to you.
Yep.
Speak to what attracted you to preserving Dreamland and what you see for its future now.
Well, I didn't have much history in preservation. but I know a good thing when I see it. And to see your passion in it and to be a part of the growth process was something that I had never done before. But you talked about when you take somebody upstairs, like when you did it the first time or two. To be able to talk to people about Dreamland and list off all the names and talk to them, I know they're seeing me lighten up and be passionate and start, like Matthew, banging on the table, and my voice gets higher, and it's just the electricity of being involved in that place. And then when you start to take people for tours, or when you're up there, and I ran Dancing into Dreamland for a number of years, and you see all these performers who've done the research, they know what's going on, and then they walk in there and they see this cathedral to performing. It's just magical. I mean, it's just there's no tiring of people's reaction whenever they breach the stairwell and open up into this giant cathedral. It's just magical. It really is.
And it's that way, like, empty.
Yeah,
and so
like that way empty.
So when you have people, or you're the person performing, or you're the person seeing the performance in there, like, I always say the ghosts come out of the wall. Like, an energy is, like, palpable. That something comes out of those old walls, and it's
to see, and I refer to it as, like, to see the old girl all dolled up for Dancing into Dreamland when you've got the lights and the sound.
I kind of thought he was for a minute too.
I'm not talking about her.
The old girl all dolled up.
Okay, come on back.
But the tables with the tablecloths and the decorations and everybody walking around with wine glasses, and they're in their Sunday best, and people are dancing and stuff. It takes you back to, oh my gosh. And there's that great scene in the documentary where they actually have people dancing and a jazz band playing. It's just remarkable to see it come to life. You're right. It is amazing when you walk in and you've got all that, you said gravity earlier. But it's also great to see her all dolled up and actually being used for, like we talked about, bring the party back. Actually see a party in there. Oh yeah. That's good stuff.
It's just a safe place for everybody. That's what I like about it. I like a place where you can be you. You can take risks. Those dancers are taking risks. Us girls putting on our outfits are taking risks. The guys are taking risks. Everybody's coming in there, and it's a safe place to take risks of all kind, social, artistic. So what do you want next for Dancing into Dreamland? We're about to get We're about to get the theater up. We're about to get the elevator up. What do we see that we're going to do with it? Matthew, talk to me about what historical reenactments, partnering with Mosaic Templars.
Nothing's set in stone, but the dream, on that front is to kind of like I said earlier, make that history as accessible as possible, as available as possible, because it's not always taught to people in their conventional education environment. So, my obligation, the thing that I feel most obligated to, is making that history available. And part of doing that is, one, this public access project that we're doing, getting people in there to physically see the history of that crazy space and feel that gravity and all that. Is a big part of that. Being a part of my tour is just listening to the history. Me recite facts is one way to do it, but really the most engaging way is to have it creatively told to you in some kind of way. You go to those, you go to the Historic Arkansas Museum and see a girl churn butter, and then you churn butter with her. You just get this you get this action that makes you remember the history that you're learning, that you're being told, and so I see that as a huge part of what we do up there when we're telling the story of the history of the. And
Mosaic Templars is our sister building at the other end.
Yeah, they're the people in town in charge of interpreting this history. As a middle class white boy, I don't have that ability. I can tell you facts, I can do stuff like that, but I don't have the appropriate perspective to really interpret this history, whereas an organization like Mosaic Templars is so essential and so awesome that we have that here, because they can take that history and they can interpret it. They can I mean, if you look at all their programming, it's so creative and so interesting, and it's all about sharing and interpreting history. That's what's in their mission, you know, and so they're going to be an absolutely integral part of what we do moving forward.
So Dancing into Dreamland, we didn't get to have, like Jeff said, he has worked Dancing into Dreamland backstage. He has handled the dancers for the last 11 years. The first one was at the Governor's Mansion, and then we did it twice at the Governor's Mansion, and then we got the Dreamland's floor, and we've done the rest of them at Dreamland. This year we didn't do it. But Matthew, we had 2 dancers come up and do a video.
Actually, only one.
Oh, we had one dancer.
Yeah, we had 2 scheduled, but the others couldn't.
Okay, so we had dancers come up. I think from Creative
New Creations Dance Company. Yeah, they did a really fun thing. They were actually a winner a couple years ago
of the event. And for people that don't know what Dancing into Dreamland is, it's 8 dance teams come out and dance and the audience votes with text voting, and there's a panel of judges that vote, and the winner gets $500.
The judges' winner gets a cash prize, and then the People's Choice also. It's just a fun way for people to
don't let anyone leave the radio station without knowing that this is not the dance that is happening in their head. When you say 8 different people, you're talking about 8 different dances in some cases, 8 different types of dancing.
It's completely different styles of dance.
So it's not just what you're thinking in your head. Okay, they're going to all compete tango. They're going to all compete.
It's not all ballroom.
No, it's not all ballroom or any of that. It's not all any one.
The belly dancers won one year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The guys like that one.
But they have a variety of different dances that they do, and it's not about the dance that they do. It's about how well they do the dance that they do.
It's the community too.
Yeah.
It's taking risks. I love dance. It's something I really love. So the part that if you were to ask me what I love about Dreamland and what I want to see happen to Dreamland, I want to continue to celebrate dancers. They don't get enough credit. It's so hard to get ready for a dance. You know, it takes months to practice and get ready, and then you get the outfit and the music, and you come out and you perform it for everybody. I want to turn that into not just an Arkansas performance, but I would like to have regional dancers come to Dancing into Dreamland. It's our only fundraiser that we have a year. We are going to edit the video that we got of that one dancer for all those people that want a Dancing into Dreamland fix. Be sure that you have gone to dreamlandballroom.org and you have signed up for the email so that we can email you the YouTube video of those people dancing. We're going to edit it. It's very fun.
Splice it in with, I think, some past dances, little tribute video kind of.
If you want to see what Dancing into Dreamland is like, you can even go to Dreamland Ballroom's YouTube channel, and there is a 5-minute
highlight reel from last year. Yeah,
there sure is. And it's just fabulous.
It's really fun.
It's really fun. For right now, if you want to get involved or you looking for a Christmas present, Matthew's selling bricks at the dreamlandballroom.org. You can buy someone a brick for Christmas, not coals, not switches, but a brick. And
it'll surprise them.
It'll surprise them.
Yeah, and the money that goes to that all goes to the restoration and everything that we're trying to do.
There is also...
And it's not just... Define the brick. It's not a brick. You're not just buying a brick.
It's engraved.
You're buying an engraved brick
at the entrance.
That'll be in the ground in an area around Dreamland Ballroom, around the Borean Hall, and it's got information in there that will directly connect the viewer to whoever you are.
And if you want to do elevated that's about $250, I think. But if you want elevated donating, you can get your name on a bronze plaque in the hallway to the new elevator addition for $5,000, Matthew. I don't know, but it's all on there. It's all online. But feel good about yourself.
There's lots of ways to donate too. Other than that,
call Matthew.
Everything
How about
helps.
that? Just call Matthew.
Give me a call.
He's everywhere. Guys, I've sure enjoyed being with y'all. I've got y'all gifts. I've got you both a T-shirt from the Dreamland Ballroom.
Yay.
What about that bottled water that you gave out earlier? I emptied mine. There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on me. You guys. I missed seeing y'all during COVID.
Do you know that I love you, and there's not a doggone thing you can do about it?
I love you too.
I know you're upset.
I know we love each other. We all love each other.
Love this color.
Yeah, right.
I just want.
That's on the walls of
Now they'll
Dreamland.
say it's the pink and green in the
That's
ballroom.
the green. Yeah, that's the green. All right.
Or it's
All right.
close to like you get in a T-shirt.
Thanks, everybody. I really enjoyed being with y'all. In closing, I want to say to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.